Linda Cooper, and welcome to the new 100 Longevity Campaign. Today's show is going to be epic. I'm just putting it out there right now. The information that you are about to receive is so next level that I just ask that you please keep an open mind, because it's real. This is not science fiction, but it's most likely the first time that you've been privy to hearing about this. And what I'm talking about is the future of extending human life as we know it, and how close we are in discovering this. So I'm going to start with saying that the average life expectancy currently here in the US is approximately 80 years of age, but research studies have shown that we are capable of living to 125. Maybe one person almost got there, and if you live in a blue zone, you have a higher percentage of getting to centenarian status or super centenarian status, but for the most part, it's extremely rare. But today's guest, Dr. Bill Andrews, is planning to change all of that. He's going to get us there and then some. I have total faith in this man. He's exceptional, and his motto, in fact, is cure aging or die trying. Dr. Andrews is an award-winning molecular geneticist and medical researcher. He's also the founder and president of Sierra Sciences, and the recipient of the Inventor of the Year Award with over 50 US patents to his name. He's a book author of Telomere Basics, Curing Aging, and Telomere Lengthening, because he is the Telomere Guru of our time. No doubt, he is the expert on that matter, and you will soon see why. And Bill and his team of scientists are very close to making the biggest discovery in medical history, at least I consider it to be so, to extend human life and reverse aging. So please welcome, I've got the chills just saying those words. Let's welcome Bill and prepare to have our minds blown. Hey Bill, how are you? Welcome Bill, it's so great having you with us today.
It's very nice to be here.
Yes, well, we are so excited to hear about this incredible, groundbreaking work that you are doing. And to ease ourselves into this process, I think let's just ask the obvious question, the elephant in the room. How are we going to cure aging?
That's a highly debated topic. I think aging is very complicated. It's not just telomeres. I think telomeres are part of it, but I think of there's a lot of things that cause us to age. I kind of think of them as multiple sticks of dynamite that are burning inside of our cells. And I think my focus is on trying to identify which stick of dynamite has the shortest fuse so that we can put that fuse out first. And then after we do that, we go after the other ones. And a lot of people are working on a lot of different ones at the moment. But I've decided that the place where I want to put my effort right now is figuring out a way to decrease the rate of telomere shortening.
We've got two books that you've written on the subject matter. So tell us, what are telomeres? I've been pronouncing it wrong. Not telomeres, telomeres. But
telomeres are both correct.
Okay, good. Correct. Okay, good. For us newbies, we can say it either way. What is the telomere importance to the aging process?
Well, the telomeres are at the very tips of our chromosomes. It's been known since the 1970s that they get shorter as we age. And in the 1990s, my lab used an enzyme called human telomerase that we discovered to lengthen telomeres, and we were able to show that we could essentially reverse aging in every way imaginable in human cells in a petri dish just by using this enzyme to lengthen the telomeres. So telomeres seem to be a clock. The length of a telomere seems to be a clock that controls the aging process that is reversible.
Yes, and there's a lot of diseases that people die from that are telomere related, correct?
I always think of reversing aging as a side effect of reversing decline in health due to aging. So we got to figure out, and almost every disease you can imagine is somehow age related.
Yes, yes. So if we cure aging, we cure a large number of these diseases, which is...
But vice versa too. If we cure the diseases, we also cure aging, because people are going to live longer because they're not going to die from these age-related diseases.
Yeah.
So they're one and the same.
So why do telomeres shorten?
Oh, well, that's a interest. It's a lot of people think something chews away the telomeres, but in fact, uh, every time a cell divides, so we have a cell in our body, that cell has to divide to become two daughter cells. Uh, Everything inside that parent cell has to be duplicated so that the two daughter cells they're identical to the parent cell. So one of the things that has to be duplicated is the DNA that gives us our eye color, hair color, stuff like that. But our cells lack the ability to duplicate the DNA all the way to the very ends. I use an analogy of bricklaying.
I
When
love
you're,
that. In layman's terms, I love your analogy. So explain to us how that works.
well, so imagine the top row of bricks on a brick wall is your chromosome, okay? And now the cell wants to replicate or duplicate, so it needs to duplicate that top row of bricks. So you have a bricklayer walking on top of the wall, laying a new row of bricks, okay? And that bricklayer is walking backward, placing a brick. Bricklayer gets to the very end of the wall and steps backward. That bricklayer falls off the wall, and there's no brick placed in the last position. As a result, the new row of bricks is shorter than the previous. So every time a cell divides, the new chromosome that's produced is a little shorter than the original one.
And telomerase is
Telomerase is the angel that flies in and replaces that brick that bricklayer could not put in place. But in all of our cells, except for our reproductive cells, don't have that enzyme telomerase. And that's why the telomeres get shorter, and that is why one of the major causes of why we age. The other cells in your body never produce telomerase, ever. You are totally, from the day you're conceived to the day you die, your cells are not producing telomerase, and so your telomeres shorten.
so when does the shortening process start? At what age?
Most of development ends at about the age of 25. Of course, there's still a lot of development that occurs. People definitely see developmental changes even in their 80s and 90s, but most of it has pretty much stopped by the time they are 25 years old. So when we talk about reversing aging, we're only talking about taking somebody back to like 25.
Which is kind of like crazy to me.
I always talk about the fact that clock still ticks, even if you are doing something to prevent aging. Well, you still do have aging, but it's back and forth. And another analogy I use is like a tug of war. There's a tug of war going on in your body whenever you're doing any anti-aging regimen, because aging is still occurring, but it's now competing with whatever you're doing as anti-aging. So it's a tug of war.
Okay, so the obvious question then is how do we lengthen our telomeres? And you've discovered this, so we're all ears.
Because of the fact that our primordial germ cells do produce telomerase, means that we have to have a gene inside of our cells that encodes for telomerase. This gene is just shut off for some reason. And so what we have been doing is we've been figuring out ways to turn the gene back on in all of our cells, not just our primordial germ cells or reproductive cells.
So what can we do to prevent our telomeres from shortening?
Well, there are actually natural products, pharmaceuticals, and gene therapies that exist now that actually do lengthen telomeres to some extent, even though shortening is occurring at the same time. But besides those, there are things that you can do to decrease the rate of telomere shortening. To prevent these, what I call accelerated telomere shortening, are antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, any anti-inflammatory, vitamin D, meditation, endurance exercise.
And you're a big endurance runner, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, I'm a big believer in the endurance exercise is one of the best things you can do to extend your lifespan and health span, as long as you keep it fun.
Yes.
If you push it, I think the best thing to do, you've already interviewed Dr. Sandra Kaufman.
Yeah, that was our first episode. If you missed it, be sure to watch.
She's essentially written the book on all the things you can do, and I follow it. I mean, I was following it. I made some changes after reading her book because I realized she was right, but I was doing most of what she said for most of my life.
Wow.
But I do recommend that people read her book, because I think that is the holy grail
Oh
on
my
the
gosh,
best
that's
thing we can
amazing.
do right now. Yeah.
Coming from you, an expert in this field, it makes me very happy because I want to deliver the most accurate information to the viewers to increase our health span and our lifespan.
My mission isn't to just give us more energy or some cosmetic that makes us look younger. I want us to be younger in every way imaginable. And that's my mission. So I'm actually taking it to the next level and more than most people are.
Yes, you are. And so you are curing aging or dying trying. And I quote.
I want to take that "or" out of there because I have no intention of dying trying.
I love it because it's happening.
I'm a big believer in the psychology of aging as a major factor. In fact, there's been studies showing that people that are pessimistic actually have shorter telomeres. So I always say that if you actually don't believe you're going to live to be 100, your telomeres.
And you know what? That is exactly it. I mean, my mother is really an example of this because she comes from this old school of a lady never tells her age, and she has been tricking herself into like being a lot younger, like decades younger for most of her from middle age on. So, and I'm not going to share my mother's age with any of you because I was sworn to secrecy at the age of 5 to never say. So it's not going to happen. My lips are sealed. However, I think her mindset actually has like proven to benefit her in looking and acting. She's sharp as a tack.
Exactly.
She looks like decades younger, and she's one of the most happy, optimistic people that you'll ever meet. So that's crazy. I think the mind is so powerful.
Dr. Elisa Epel is probably, I consider, the world's leader in the subject of looking at the psychology of aging. And she's looked a lot at telomeres, and she's done a lot of studies. She's published some books and stuff like that. I highly recommend you interview her too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dr. Terry Grossman coined a phrase that is heard a lot that I just love, and that's live long enough to live forever. Okay. And I am trying to focus on trying to make it so that we can live long enough to be around for the next cure, and then the next cure, and the next cure.
Tell all of us, because you've already shared this with me, which is amazing. Tell us, what is that time frame where you see this happening?
Telomeres, I think, is the main first fuse that we have to put out. And I think we can have that fuse put out in 1 to 3 years with the appropriate amount of funding. Now, what would that do? Would that give us an extra 50 years of healthy living, 20 years of healthy living? It depends on these other sticks of dynamite that are burning out. But as far as I'm concerned, even if it gave me 20 additional years of healthy living, that gives me 20 more years to figure out how to put out that next stick of dynamite after the other ones.
That's the main stick of dynamite. So can you share with us what some of the others are?
Well, oxidative stress is a big one. Mitochondrial dysfunction is a big one. Inflammation is a big one. Now, a lot, and there's a lot of things like junk being built up inside your cells, lack of autophagy.
Wait, go back. I don't know what that is. Definition, please.
Autophagy is your ability to get, or cell's ability to get rid of junk that builds up inside. Okay, that decreases when you get older. The list is very long. There's genes called sirtuins. There's hormones that like human growth hormone. There's a lot of things that change when you get older. I don't know if those are all going to be controlled by telomeres. I mean, it might be that lengthening telomeres returns sirtuin levels to normal. It might be that changes human growth hormone levels to normal. We won't know until actually we do it, but maybe we might end up knocking out several sticks of dynamite just by lengthening telomeres, but we don't know. We're venturing into the unknown, and when we know, we'll let everybody else know.
Right. Well, when you cure aging, everyone is going to be like, that to me is like next level, incredible, probably the biggest scientific medical breakthrough of history. And you are sitting on all of this knowledge, but as you say, you need funding to make it happen, to get to that next level, to do the human trials. Is that correct?
Yeah, my major goal right now is to just get something that will actually reverse aging in human cells in a petri dish. But we do have a gene therapy that's ready to be tested in humans right now too.
The knowledge that you have and the timeline, which we're so close, like why is it that a big pharmaceutical group hasn't like snapped you up and said, here, I'm gonna.
A lot of large pharmaceuticals, probably companies, I shouldn't mention names, but have sat down in my conference room and met with me and stuff, and they say, when we have a pill that we can add to human cells in a petri dish and reverses their aging, give us a call. They don't want to be involved in the research, but they want to be involved in the marketing when we have something like that.
Are you getting your funding through the private sector, or how are you going about getting funding for this?
Half the funding I've gotten through the private sector. The other half I've gotten through licensing some of the discoveries that we've made to other companies that then market products based on those things and pay us royalties. So using those royalties, I've been able to
keep it running.
Yeah, well, I've also been able to reacquire ownership of the company. So I don't depend on investor funding anymore at all. I'm totally funded by the royalties from some of the products that are out there that were invented by us, but we don't sell. We let somebody else sell it.
Yeah, you just want to stick to what you know best.
Yeah, I'm a scientist. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, we want you to just be able to focus on all of that, so that makes sense. So I guess my question then is, how much telomerase is going to be needed to make this work?
Well, years ago, that's a good question, because years ago, we surveyed a lot of different cell lines that by mutation actually produce telomerase. And we identified a cell line that produces the lowest amount of telomerase to still not age. And that's a cell line called HeLa, which actually got quite a lot of fame because even a movie was made about that cell line because it's from a woman named Henrietta Lacks. HeLa is.
Yes, I saw that. It was fascinating.
Well, that cell line just happens to be produced the lowest amount of telomerase and still not age. And so we can't put a number on it, but we can compare when we produce a natural product or chemical, pharmaceutical, or something like that that induces telomerase inside of a human cell, we can compare that level to the level that's produced in HeLa. And so we call it, like, for instance, we'll say this chemical produces 16% as much telomerase as we find in HeLa cells. And so, which means if it's 16%, that means we need to find a way to increase it sixfold more to actually stop aging. And then increasing it further beyond that would actually reverse aging.
So does this have something to do with the Hayflick limit?
Yeah, this is actually all about the Hayflick limit. See, this is, in the early 1960s, Leonard Hayflick discovered that human cells aren't like bacteria or yeast. They actually can't divide indefinitely. After they divide a certain number of times, they stop dividing, and that's called the Hayflick limit. And when you take cells from a young person, they will divide more times than cells from an old person before they reach the Hayflick limit. So what is the cause of that? And it was theorized that maybe telomere shortening was the cause of the Hayflick limit. And so it was my research that I led in the early 1990s that showed that by extending telomeres by using the enzyme telomerase, we were able to completely obliterate the Hayflick limit.
And that's where you won the Inventor of the Year award, correct?
I did. I was awarded Inventor of the Year award. That was more for my cancer research because we were able to show that inhibiting the enzyme telomerase in cancer cells actually killed them all by essentially causing them to die of accelerated aging. So I was awarded second place for actual National Inventor of the Year in 1997 for that discovery. And that was because we had discovered telomerase, human telomerase, and because we had discovered telomerase, we were able to do that experiment to show that the antisense of telomerase killed cancer cells.
So for most of us who are in the mainstream, the everyday person, we don't really understand how your knowledge is being shared with the rest of the scientific community. And it's kind of why I'm doing this series right now, is to educate the average person, because it's usually just showcased peer-to-peer within studies that you put out, correct?
Yeah. Well, whenever we discover anything important, we definitely publish it. We sometimes just share it with other labs that are doing the same research, because actually writing a publication is very time consuming and interferes with actually doing science a lot. So a lot of times we make a discovery, we just send materials to other labs all over the world and say, here's this is going to help your research.
Yeah.
We're
part of that elite like handful of scientists that are working on have a direct impact on this discovery. Which to me, like, so incredible, from the standpoint of the average person. I just hope that you get as much assistance that you need to make it happen.
Yeah, well, I don't want to stand in the way of anybody curing my aging, so there's no way I would hide anything. There's some things that have to be hidden, but that's like the structure of pharmaceutical chemicals and stuff like that actually work. We still provide them to other labs so they can do the experiments, but we don't tell them what the structure is, because that's how we get our royalties to fund our research.
Right. And well, yes, I'm sure that you all share, and it makes sense that you're sharing this just within your tight-knit group, but why do you think aging hasn't been cured yet?
Well, it sure isn't for lack of knowledge. There's a lot of brilliant people. I mean, Aubrey de Grey, others.
You and Aubrey did a documentary. You were the key scientists that were showcased on a film called The Immortalists.
Yes.
And I got a chance to see you're extremely likable.
You know what? That documentary was a major accomplishment by the producers and directors. And it's like, I was amazed at what a great documentary that was. And most people don't know this, but it almost won an Oscar for a new documentary in 2014.
It wasn't shared to the masses. I don't know how it was distributed, to be honest.
I don't understand it either. I don't understand how it could do so well at the Academy Awards and not be all over the place. But the directors and the producers, they were actually fairly beginners at this, but they did an extremely good job. But I don't think they had the support that they needed.
Why is it that there's like this stigma almost that it's not real, that it's like a hoax?
Quacks and charlatans have been discrediting the field of anti-aging for thousands of years. I actually say that in The Immortalists. If we didn't need the funding to do the research, I would not be trying to promote what we're doing at all. In fact, for the first 10 years of Sierra Sciences, the company, we didn't do any promotion. It wasn't until after the global financial crisis of 2008 that I decided I had to find other means of bringing in funding.
How does a person know what their telomere length is? Is there a way to actually measure that?
There are a lot of companies that are really, I want to say, not legitimate, because telomere length measurement is not.
Want to talk about them.
Telomere length measurement in general is not very easy to do, and it requires a really good company. Now, there is one company that I think is really, really good. If I wanted to measure my telomeres, life length is where I would do that.
Okay.
Now, at the same time, there are other methods of measuring your age, and methylation, something called the Horvath clock, is actually very, very effective. It's been shown that the amount of methylation and the location of the methylations is correlated with aging. And I believe that lengthening telomeres is very likely going to reverse that methylation.
Stop right here. What is methylation? Please explain it.
Well, methylation is, a methyl group is essentially a carbon with some hydrogens attached to it. And these methyl groups can attach to DNA, specifically at bases called cytosines.
You're assuming that we know this.
I'm just forgetting that you.
I'm the average person. Keep that in mind. So
I don't know. You're not average, because you've gotten me so involved now in the blue zones. I'm very intrigued by your idea. I don't want to pretend like you haven't already told me. I've never thought of this before. I'll tell you, you've compelled me or motivated me to actually start doing a lot of research in the literature to look and see if there is such a possible correlation. I am astounded.
Oh, I'm so that you don't even know how much that means to me, because that's so validating. So thank you. But yeah, it hasn't been documented. There has been no correlation. Everyone is looking at their own area of expertise. And so the scientists are looking at, taking the blood samples from all of the centenarians and trying to figure out their genetic DNA and what their diet is and their genetic pattern. And they've studied all these things. They found some incredible research. But I look at the bigger picture of things, and I actually saw that just of the first 5, what the common denominator was. And I found one. And then I was like, okay, this is great. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and see if this theory of blue zones with centenarians is a fit with all the other regions. And it is. And my theory is that every single one of the regions, there is a geothermal natural resource in the immediate environment. So if you're eating the food and drinking the water from an area that has been affected with a heat shock protein, then that person is benefiting huge.
I've been studying heat shock things since the 1970s also, and I do believe they play some kind of role in the aging process, and a lot of things dealing with human health.
You can take a look at, from a geologist's point of view, that they are smack dab in the middle of this incredible fountain of youth right in their own backyards, literally. So I thought there was something to it. I'm really excited to hear that you thought that there was too.
Yeah, I do believe that a lot of people do get focused narrowly, okay, and they miss the thing that's standing right in front of them. And you definitely picked up on something that I haven't heard anybody think. But I'll tell you, I'm not ignoring this. I'm going full bore onto it.
And maybe that will further help with the research that you're already doing by taking whatever the component is that you're utilizing.
They all have to, anything that has anything to do with aging, not just telomeres, has to be all put together in the same elixir. Okay, and I'm betting that some of those things that are going to be found in that those water sources are probably going to be in this eventual elixir.
Amazing. I'm going to get a blue zones expert to be able to discuss this theory with that person, and it might be eye-opening to them as well. So
I can't wait to see that episode.
All right, well, thank you.
All right.
Just really want to thank you, because this is incredible work that you are doing, and for dedicating your life's purpose to achieve this for all of us. My hat's off to you, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much. It's been a mission of mine since my father put the seed in my head, 10 years old, and that's all described in that movie, The Immortalist, too.
You were portrayed exactly as you are, which is exceptional. So thank you again for sharing this wealth of knowledge with all of us, and really appreciate everything. And that's it for today. I always like to say that knowledge is power, and I hope this episode and this entire series, for that matter, inspires a longevity mindset in all of you. So we'll see you next time on the new one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bill. Bye.
I'm not backing down, 'cause the future is now. Not backing down, 'cause the future is now.